Hello YouTube, it's Supernova back with the King Air B200 in Explain 11. In this video we're looking at a straight-in IFR approach to Nice. Update 11.1 in Explain corrected an issue with flare on landing, which slightly altered how the aircraft handles in the flare. The first thing that we're going to do is to engage autopilot. I also set approach mode and also vertical speed mode. I set vertical speed mode because there appears to be an issue with the autopilot, which means that it's descending well before meeting the glide slope. The next thing that I do is to set RPM to 1900 RPM. You'll notice that the RVR not ready light will illuminate on the warning panel. This simply means that the reversers are not available. To correct that, push the propeller levers to the full forward position on landing. I also set torque to about 600 pounds and I extend approach flaps. Approach flaps can be extended below 195 knots. Then when we are 1 dot or half a dot below the glide slope, I extend the landing gear and also extend full flaps. Below 250 feet I will disengage the autopilot. Now crossing the threshold, I will look for a particular height, and that is probably the most difficult part of this approach and landing. Judging the correct height to begin the flare. The flare has two purposes. The first is to raise the pitch of the aircraft so that you're landing on the main landing gear rather than the nose. The second purpose is to reduce the descent rate. Currently we're looking at 500 to 600 FPM descent. That will result in a hard landing, so we want to reduce that down to about 100 FPM. Now when we raise the nose, we get a temporary increase in lift, but that is only a temporary increase. As we slow, we will start to lose lift and we'll start to sink. If that sink becomes an issue, then you may need to add power to arrest the sink so that you're maintaining the 100 FPM descent. In this example I don't quite get it perfect. Instead of a 100 FPM descent rate, I get to a neutral descent rate, but I'm still landing about 100 to 150 FPM, so it is still a good landing. But ideally you want to transition between a 500 to 600 FPM descent to a 100 FPM descent, and then come down on the main gear and drop the nose gear. At this point you're trying to maintain centre line, looking to come out of the autopilot, trying to maintain centre line as much as possible, and then looking for that height to begin the flare. So watch the vertical speed indicator. It starts to reduce. It was a little bit too high, so the pitch of the aircraft changes, and then touchdown. So it's not a perfect landing, but you can see the basics. Getting into that flare position, raising the nose, achieving a 100 FPM descent rate, touching down on the main gear. And it isn't easy, it will take time and practice. But that is the great advantage of Explain, in that you can set up an approach, in this case 10 miles out from the runway. Just look under customization, select the desired runway and select the distance of VFR at 3 miles and IFR at 10 miles. and then slowing the speed down to a maximum of 22 knots to exit the runway. And that is an example of a good landing in the King Air B200. Hope you enjoyed that. And as always, feel free to like, comment and subscribe.